Hey guys, welcome back to The Detour. I'm Cecily, and today we're going to be doing a full practice that's based around making our hamstrings a lot stronger. So if you do a lot of yoga and a lot of forward bends, this is the type of work you're going to really want to start integrating into your practice. I look forward to seeing you in a minute. So as we get into our practice here, focusing on the hamstrings, the first thing we're going to want to do is bring some awareness to this area of the body. So we'll start standing up and then turning towards the front of your mat, bringing the feet about hip distance apart, toes aligned forward. I'm going to take the hands onto the hips, find a little bit of a bend in the knees, and initiate my hip hinge from the pelvis. I'm going to come down to 90 degrees. As I hold here, I'm imagining sliding both heels backward at the same time, so I get a real sense of lighting up activity in the backs of my legs all the way up into my glutes, the butt muscles. And then I come back up. And then I'll soften again, tip the hips forward, spine will follow. I'm going to hold. This time arms back behind me, reaching through the fingertips. As the fingertips reach back, crown of the head draws forward and chin stays tucked down. And I'll stand back up. And then again, soften the knees, hinge the hips, hold. This time bringing the hands lightly to the back of the head, different type of loading pattern here. So now the hamstrings will feel a little bit more action happening here, and I want to really endeavor to keep the spine nice and straight. Then I'll stand back up, take a breath, and one more time, knees soften, pelvis tilts, spine follows, we hold at 90, and now I reach the arms forward in line with the ears. And let's just take a few breaths here, looking for that sense of balanced weight through the feet. You can still wiggle the toes, and the hamstrings are working to hold us in that 90-degree angle. For 3, 2, 1, and then we'll stand back up. Good. So now we might want to find a wall. If balance is feeling shaky, go ahead. I'm going to step my left foot underneath me and reach back for my right ankle with my right hand. If that left hand wants to be on a wall, go ahead and place it there as necessary and begin to find your quadriceps stretch. So you can see as I have my right foot activated into flexion, I'm flexing through that ankle and at the same time resisting back through my heel to keep my knees aligned and the front of my hips pointing forward. Now I'm going to see if I can wake up my hamstrings to pull the heel toward the bum so that now I can let go of my hand. Things might cramp up. If that happens, give like a little shake out and try the other side. Give this one a little rest and then come back. As I squeeze, I keep the knee in place. I'm not letting the leg float back behind me. And I'm also working to keep the tailbone pointing straight down, pelvis neutral. Just one more breath, squeeze it up. And then step it down. Let's shake it out and try the opposite side. You can see from the front, as I bring my hand back to that left ankle, I'm also not allowing any kind of tip over toward that right side. So I maintain the alignment of the knees, level pelvis, flex foot, and now I think of squeezing the muscle there in the back of my knee to let go of the foot. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Again, if it cramps up, give it a shake. We don't have to fight through that, just to hold. Tailbone stays down. Ribs are staying soft. Squeeze that heel up for 3, 2, and 1. Shake it out. And then move back toward the front of the mat. All right, so now if you have any yoga blocks lying around, I might suggest grabbing a hold of them or anything else that could stand in, maybe even a pair of light dumbbells. Okay, so the blocks are tall height right behind me. I want to first just initiate again that hip hinge, and then I bring my hands down onto the blocks. I'm going to shift my weight into my right leg and send the left one straight back behind me. This leg doesn't have to get super high. The idea is that it's just going to provide a counter load as now I think of pushing through my right heel to lift off the blocks. And slowly then standing up, I think of hovering that left foot in underneath me and then hinging from that right hip to lower down toward the floor. Now, as we do that movement, if you feel any kind of restriction or discomfort in the front angle of your hip, you'll want to boost yourself up higher. So maybe set the blocks onto a step or another similar kind of platform so that we're not hinging quite so far down into the front of that hip. We want to be able to move through this action with only sensation being work happening in the back of that right leg and right bum. So once you find out the right height for yourself, let's do a couple more. Finding that sense of control Each time we come down, thinking of leveling the pelvis, lengthening out through the top of the head, and maintaining those soft landings with the blocks. Then we'll switch to the other side. So I stand over the left. I might begin just by hanging out for a second with the blocks on the floor, getting myself adjusted to what this left leg feels like underneath me, and then loading the heel, unlocking the knee, keeping the hips level, floating the blocks, and then standing up and easing it back down. Let's just do one more. And if you feel that your body needs more, then by all means keep going. Just press pause. I'll still be here. We'll throw those blocks off to the side and then come back to standing. So now it's essentially like we're doing that exact same movement, just with even more activation as we come back into our hip hinge. First, bring the arms up over the head on the inhalation, and then keeping the arms reaching beyond your ears. Hinge and pause. Again, that 90-degree angle. Think of activating them through the backs of the legs. Take a breath. And then we'll bring the hands all the way down to the floor and step back onto the hands and knees. Okay. So now that we're on all fours, if it feels like your wrists need a little bit of extra prep, go ahead and just move them around a little bit in a way that just introduces your hands to the floor. And walk the fingers around in a full circle in both directions. As full a circle as I can make. And then I'll do the same thing on the backs of the hands. And then other direction. And then finding my way back onto flat palms. All right, so then from here, I'm going to take one of my blocks and just place it on my back so I have a little bit of a measuring tool in that block to ensure that I'm not tipping over to any one side. Maintaining its balance, I'm going to shift my right leg back behind, and then from here, bend my leg to feel that heel lifting up towards my hip. And then from here, pulsing my knee up to the ceiling for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, so keep squeezing the heel in, 3, 2, 1, reach it all the way out, keep the foot flexed, push that heel up a little bit higher until your hamstrings stretch out, and then bring the knee back and under the hip. Then we do the same thing on the second side. So I float that leg back behind me, squeezing the heel in, trying not to tip over to my right side as I pulse the knee up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, hold it up, reach it out, flex that foot, reach through that heel, keep the thigh raised, and then bring the knee back in. I'm going to reach that block, set both blocks now out of the way, and return to all fours. One more time, taking that right leg into that similar position, floating it up toward that 90-degree angle, okay? And now I'm going to look for a balance here. So I'm going to take my left hand and bring it into my rib cage, pull those ribs away from my hand, push through that right arm to protract that shoulder, and now just try and squeeze that right heel in as close as I can get it. And just pause, reaching through the top of the head for 5, 4, 3, keep drawing that heel in, 2, 1, taking it down, switching sides, floating the left, squeeze it in tight, right hand finds the rib cage, ribs lift away from it, left hand pushes through that floor for 5, 4, squeeze the left heel in, 3, 2, 1, then I'll release, take myself back down onto both knees for a moment, and pause. So now if we want to bring some padding onto them like a blanket or a towel, that works, or just roll the outer edge of your mat in a little bit and place your knee on top. From there, I'm going to take the left foot forward and bring myself into a low lunge to begin with. So on the fingertips or again on your blocks, whatever you feel more comfortable with. And then I'm going to start to send my weight forward. So now you can see the front of my right hip stretching. And from there, I'm going to try and lift my right foot and squeeze the heel toward the bum. And I'll bring it back down and lift it back up. Now, if that's feeling fairly accessible to you by now, then you might try this with the hands instead off the floor, a 90-degree angle in your left knee, and then I maintain a sense of hip extension, so that means I don't want to be sticking the butt right out here. I keep squeezing in through that right bum, and same idea, pulling the heel off the floor. So now it's creating a little bit more demand on the length of my quadriceps and the stabilization of my pelvis. Let's do 2 more. And the last one, let's hold it there. Try and balance if possible for 3, 2, 1, and release. We'll step back the left and do the other side. Bring the right edge of the mat down, left edge of the mat in. Start with the right foot forward and then walk it onto your hands or onto your blocks. Leaning the hips forward first and then seeing how it feels to lift up that left heel. Often we have one side that can feel a lot more cooperative than the other. Stay down here if this feels best, or bring it back up onto the knee. Keeping that right heel under the knee, again, pelvis in the posterior tilt position, tucking under. Lifting up off of that left toe. Squeezing that heel up. You want to try and squeeze to the point where you feel real muscular activation happening toward the lower end of your hamstrings, the ones closest to your knee. Last one, balancing there for 3, 2, 1, and release. Taking the hands back down. This time we're going to step that right foot back and we're in plank. Leaning out. Take a moment, take a breath, and then slowly lower yourself all the way down to the floor. All right, so then just balancing here on elbows, or even bringing your head down onto your hands is up to you. What I want to do is now see if I can feel the hamstrings turning on to create hip extension, so to create the feeling that my front hip bones are pushing down into the floor. My feet stay pointed, I'm driving them down into the mat as well. And then very gradually, I might start to feel like it's possible to not need my arms, to not have to support myself on the elbows. So the hands just float into the forehead, and all the work is happening here. Bum is squeezing to push into the ground. Hamstrings are drawing the thighs into the floor. Let's just pause there for 3, 2, 1, and release. And now bringing the head down to the floor. We're going to start to now do the opposite end of things and lift through the legs. So I have my head still raised, so you can hear me, but you're welcome to have your forehead down. And then I'm lengthening through the lumbar spine, so glutes stay engaged. And I'm doing that lift with both legs in a way that doesn't bring compression into my lower back. Knees are straight. Spine is long. Gaze is down. 2 more. Last one, let's hold it up for 3, 2, 1. Now can we keep the legs engaged and pull the hands just next to the rib cage into a hover position. So the elbows bend to 90 and squeeze in, and now I feel the whole back line of my body is on, it's ready. It's going to support me as I lift toward upward facing dog. Breathing in. And then shifting back to your knees, tuck your toes. And then allow your hamstrings to finally lengthen into downward facing dog. And just see how this pose feels different after all that work we just did. Then we'll drop the knees and slowly make our way onto the back. Okay, so once we get settled here, reach for one of your blocks one more time. And bring that block back in between the knees. With the arms by the sides, the heels hip distance apart. Take a breath, and when you're ready, start to feel the heels pulling towards your hips and lift the hips up off the ground. And just do it a few times, lowering and lifting and observing how your body might respond. Does it tend to want to do the lifting from the rib cage and the spine? Or can we get the lift to come less from the back and more from the hips? And by all means, if it feels like your knees are coming in too narrow, you can take your block and always put it to the wider width. So with that medium width, giving yourself a little bit more leniency, holding on to the block the whole time. On the next one, we're going to come up and hold. Now it's going to feel a little bit here like you want to grip the floor. Do your best to just keep the upper body nice and relaxed. Keep the heels right and underneath the knees, and then see if we can shift off that right heel. Keep pushing out through that left bum for 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to bring that right foot back down. Reset my hips, keep them lifted. Keep the shoulder blades down, chin away from chest. Left foot goes forward for 3. Hip lifting on the right. 2, 1. And then I'll bend the knee. Lift both sides up one more time. And then lower all the way down. Take that block off to the side. And allow the knees to come in toward the chest. Just get a little squeeze, a little rock side to side. And then let the legs extend up into the air and just give them a good shake out. And then for our rest today, you might choose to move yourself to a wall and take legs up the wall, or if you're comfortable where you are, let's just let the legs slide all the way out. Give them a little wiggle. Let the arms fall into whatever feels natural. Closing the eyes. And then following all that hamstring work, just notice how the rest of the body feels. What has the response been? How do the legs feel? And then tune into your breathing and monitor where the breath is going. You know, the chest to drop and the belly to expand with the inhale. Feel free to stay here as long as you like. Whenever you're ready, just begin to walk the feet back in. Reach up and back with the arms. And roll over onto your side. Helping yourself eventually up to seated. Taking a comfortable seat where we can just observe again and sit with the effects of that work. We'll continue with the rest of the day. I hope that this practice introduced you to your hamstrings in a whole new way, and I look forward to playing more with you next time as we follow the detour together.